One would be to keep doing the things that you enjoy doing. Whether or not there's an end goal in sight, sometimes it's enough to just do a passion because it's fun. And if it turns into something else, fantastic. If not, it's still a worthwhile pursuit. The second would be, it gets easier. Sometimes, I think around 14, life felt like the hardest thing possible, whether it's high school bullies or whatever. And actually, if you can make it through that, things get easier. And the final thing would be, I guess, yeah, to not be afraid to try new things as well. My name is Harry Baker, and I am a spoken word poet. The coolest thing about my job is that I can be doing something one week and something completely different the next week. Since going full-time, it's opened up the opportunities to say yes to other kinds of projects. So recently I've done some stuff in international schools where I've been teaching kids to write poetry in Beijing and Bangkok, and that's something I didn't know was possible. But then at the same time, I'm working on my own kind of children's story about maths, about poetry, and combining the two. And so it's having the space to try and make my ideas become possibilities. But at the moment, because I've built up momentum with it, I feel like if I have an idea or a plan that I want to try out, enough people will give me the time and space to at least have a look at it. And if it's something that's worth pursuing, I feel like I now have the right support networks that I can do that. The biggest challenge, I mean, one of the things for me when deciding to do full-time poetry, when I applied to university, I originally was going to study medicine and then switch to do maths. And part of what I found attractive about that was the job security and knowing what you're doing and feeling like it's making a difference. And so one of the kind of things I've had to accept is there's an amount of uncertainty in what I do. And at the moment, I love it and it's fantastic, but in 6 months' time, it may look very different. But I kind of have managed to psych myself up to see that as something that's very exciting as opposed to terrifying. I quite like the idea that there's something different around the corner. On a practical level, because I do everything myself, sometimes I want to just shut myself away and write, but I have to respond to emails about certain things or make sure I'm in the right place at the right time, or get up really early to be at school on time across the country so I can do an assembly. And so it's a lot of kind of time management and practical stuff that sometimes feels like it gets in the way of being creative. I thought once I went full-time poet, I'd have so much more time to write and perform and do what I really, really love doing. But you have to kind of balance that with other things. But the payoff is that I still have control over what I do. One thing I love about what I do is it's very varied, kind of week on week, but it's a mixture of writing and performing. So part of the spoken word poetry is the things I write. I have an aim to later perform them. So whether that's in a live gig setting or also go into schools and run workshops. And occasionally I will write commissions where I'm asked to write poems about certain themes for certain people. So a typical week, I'll have 1 or 2 days where I'm going into schools, so both performing in assemblies and teaching the students to write their own poetry and perform that. And then there'll be perhaps a couple of evening gigs, whether that's at an existing poetry night or doing kind of standalone solo shows. And then if I have any time off in between, I'll often be working on a new project, whether it's writing a poem or a story or working on a TEDx talk. And then in between all of that, I have to respond to emails and send people invoices and do general admin. I was born in a town called Bath in the UK, and I moved to London when I was 3 or 4, where I went to school. At university, I went to Bristol, where I studied maths, and I also did a year abroad in Germany, where I was studying maths at a German university, and so learned German as well. In kind of holidays and in between, I had jobs during school, doing a paper round, doing a bit of reception work, that kind of thing. But for me, because I'd done a lot of performing and writing alongside studying. By the time I finished, I knew that it was possible to pursue it as a career. So after university, when I graduated, I went straight into doing the poetry full time. I think it's hard to imagine. A lot of the reason why I do what I do are things that I'd put down to either coincidence or chance. I know I'm very grateful to have had a supportive family and friends who kind of helped me believe in myself enough to do it. So I don't think I had to study a maths degree to be able to write and perform poetry, but that gave me 4 years where I knew I was grounded somewhere and could pursue this both as a passion and a career. I know a lot of people who don't have fortunate enough circumstances that they have time to pursue their passion as a passion alone. I kind of knew that whatever I ended up doing, I would love to still write and perform, whether that meant I'd have to do teaching or something else as well. But I'm very grateful that the things that fell into place did, that have meant I've been able to put all of my time into it. And 5 years down the line, that might be different, but right now, I'm trying to make the most of it. In terms of day-to-day skills, a lot of it is learning as I go. The first year of doing it involved a lot of saying yes to things and then working out later on. But I have to manage my own time and work out my own kind of transport and travel schedules. And then also it involves meeting a lot of people for the first time who I might have been in touch with via email, but kind of working out that side of things. And then obviously there's the public speaking element of it and interacting with other people. And then I think a lot of what I do wouldn't have been possible 10 years ago just because of the way that social media and the internet work. So I have to manage all of that myself to kind of get the word out so that if I'm doing a gig and there's someone locally who might want to see it, there's a chance for them to find out about it.